The visual novel that started it all, Never7, The End of Infinity, was the first installment in Kindle Imagine Develops Infinity series, a highly prestigious and historically significant visual novel franchise that served as the predecessor to the likes of the Zero Escape series, and of course, SciEDV. The general theme of the franchise is about escaping a confined space seemingly existing within an infinity loop, and the very beginning of it all was Never7 over a quarter of a century ago. The story of Never7 follows Ishihara Makoto on a mandatory school trip to an island with classmates from university. From the looks of things, they're there mostly to bond with one another. But on the first morning of the trip, April 1st, Makoto wakes up with a horrible vision of the future wherein someone dies on April 6th, carrying a small bell. As he continues going about the trip, he finds himself increasingly feeling these small premonitions. But are these actually premonitions? Or are they memories? And will Makoto and the rest of the cast make it to April 7th alive? After all this time, how has Never7 aged? I have a lot to say about it, both positive and negative. Starting off with what I liked. First up, the game's concepts. Never7 explores so many interesting ideas, it's kind of a shame they made it in the style of a traditional galge. It explores topics like artificial existences and cloning, shared delusions, as well as time travel. These ideas would later be incorporated in and expanded upon in the Infinity series' spiritual successor series, SciEDV. But even within Never7 alone, I found the game's exploration of these topics to be quite compelling. Later down the line, the reception of these sci-fi elements in Never7 eventually led to them further emphasizing those components in Never17, and especially so in Remember 11, which was pure sci-fi. I wish Never7's content would have been more in line with the Ever 17 and Remember 11 levels of emphasis on the sci-fi, but still, what's presented in Never7 is nice. Second, I was a fan of Never7's length. It's not too long, and not too short either. It took me a little over 15 hours or so to finish, so it's a pretty smooth reading experience, and it doesn't feel like it drags on for too long, despite a lot of it being traditional galge slice of life. Speaking of slice of life, I was also a fan of the setting and atmosphere. The isolated island the story takes place in makes it feel so gripping. It's comfy when it's time for slice of life, and it's creepy when the focus is on the mystery and sci-fi, especially at nighttime or at the enigmatic shrine. Very fitting to make it take place on a confined island they're trying to temporally and physically escape from. Aiding the atmosphere is also Takashi Abo's music. Whether it's today or 25 years ago, he truly never misses with his work. And Never7's character themes are especially nice. And the island works so well for the Infinity Loop. Lastly, I was a huge fan of the Yuka and Izumi-Kyo routes. The Yuka route was the very first one I played, and the Izumi-Kyo route was one of the last ones that I played. Yuka's route did a pretty good job in getting me invested in the setting and narrative of Never7. When the focus of the story is on the sci-fi and not the romance, that's where I found it to be at its strongest. And the Yuka route was both what I thought was the strongest in characterization and in sci-fi. I can't discuss the Izumi-Kyo route much due to spoiler reasons, but you can think of it as akin to a true end for the game. If there's one part of Never7 I find myself coming back to, it's definitely that route, because it's the thematic core of what Nakazawa and Uchikoshi were trying to convey with Never7. And it's crazy to think that in the first version of the game, this route wasn't playable due to a game-breaking bug. Fortunately, that doesn't seem to have mattered much in the long run, as nowadays, we can all play it. But in any case, that's about all the positives I have about the game. So what about the negative? First, the romance elements. Because of genre conventions and the developers wanting the game to sell well, they made it like a traditional romance galge, as any other visual novel at the time was. Not my cup of tea, but okay, that can work fine if done well. But in this case, I just didn't find myself gripped by anything the game presented romance-wise. I found the romance overall to be very weak. That leads me into my next biggest criticism for Never7, the characters. Some of the cast members can be pretty funny at times, but by and large, I don't think I felt invested in any of them. I don't think a single one of them truly moved me in any significant way. And given the concept of the game, this was something that was especially disappointing. The bulk of this game is spent within romance character roots. It's very much a character-driven story first and foremost. Oftentimes, that can be for the better, but in this case, I think that was for the worst. Frankly speaking, for a good chunk of the game, I just didn't care much for what was happening. The sci-fi elements and the overarching plot are great, but most of the characters are just not that interesting. And when the game spends so much time on them, it just ends up feeling like a complete drag. But that just about elapses my thoughts on Never7, the first entry in the highly acclaimed Infinity series. I'm definitely more mixed on Never7 than I am on Ever 17, and especially Remember 11, but I still enjoyed it overall. If you haven't played it yet, I would definitely suggest giving it a go, even if it's not the greatest of visual novels out there. In some ways it's aged poorly, but in others it's aged fine. I'll see you in my next video. Until next time, Bossman out. This story is not over yet, because only you are in the infinity loop.